now to bring us home, I'm going to have Noel Yuhanna, who we're very excited to have with us, who's a VP and principal analyst at Forrester Research. And as I mentioned earlier, was one of the original analysts that covered data virtualization in his research back in 2006. So we've done a lot of work with Noel over the years, and more recently conducted a survey of IT leaders around data access challenges that they have. So I'll pass it to Noel to bring us home. Noel, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks.
I got you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this webinar to talk about data virtualization. It's definitely a hot topic, by the way. We hear a lot of customers talking about data virtualization today. So I've been covering this space for a couple of decades. And what's interesting is the notion of data virtualization has grown extensively across all of these different applications, insights. Whether you're doing you're a financial services company, a retailer, oil and gas, e-commerce, I think everyone is starting to use data virtualization. So definitely it's an important market segment, I would say. Next slide. So, I mean, one of the trends we see in data virtualization, I get to speak to 3 to 4 customers every day. As I mentioned, these are from different industries, and sometimes these are developers, sometimes they're actually enterprise architecture teams, engineers, data stewards, security folks, business analysts, right? The number of inquiries at Forrester on data virtualization and replication has grown about 25% for the last 12 months. If you compare 12 months, it's grown 25%. So what's going on? Right? Well, the whole notion is that we got all these silos of data. We got data on premises, we got data in the cloud, we got data into multiple clouds, we got data at the edges as well. How are we going to deal with consistency of data, right? And this is a big issue. More than 30% of data in an organization is duplicated. Duplicated. So there's a lot of these inconsistency of data reporting, dashboarding coming out in an organization. And this is a big struggle, right? Because you have all these silos, you have this disconnected platform. And data virtualization, basically, we wrote about this many years ago, like 17 years ago, 18 years ago. And the focus back then was mostly on premises as opposed to the cloud, right? But now, see, the cloud is gaining traction and everyone is running the cloud. The data is now even more distributed than ever before, right? So I would say data virtualization is helping in terms of real-time insights. This is a very, very important point, real-time insights. Traditionally, data moved into these different, from transactional systems to the operational systems to the analytical systems, like a data warehouse, and then comes to a dashboard. It's 24 hours late, by the way. Can we get that in a second? Well, your current architecture may not support that. And that's what data virtualization is. It's like a shortcut to your data in real time, a shortcut. Why a shortcut? Because you can connect to any source on premises, cloud. You can connect to your databases, it can connect to data warehouses, you can connect to data platforms, you can connect to social data as well. And that's, I think, the big thing, I guess, as well, right? You need to be able to connect to all these data sources, not just one type of data source, I guess, There's also the growing need for this consistency, trustedness of data as well. As I mentioned, a lot of duplication of data is happening. How do we deliver consistency of data, right? A huge thing and a huge topic of discussion right now across all the application, especially to support AI machine learning use cases, data science use cases, business intelligence use cases. Low latency, high performance replication is becoming a big demand right now than ever before. Traditionally, we've had, okay, we're going to move data source from 1 to data source 2. We're going to connect 2 data sources. People are connecting to tens and hundreds of sources in real time, right? And that, I think, is a big, tall order right there for data virtualization, right? What's changed? 5-10 years ago, we were not doing hundreds of sources. Very, very few, right? They were doing that. Today, there are many organizations doing hundreds of sources. Connecting to one source is okay, but what about hundreds of sources, right? Reliable replication needs to be there. Self-service is very important. Now, self-service traditionally, was not there. It was mostly focusing around data engineering focus, developer focus. Now we are democratizing data, right? So self-service has grown beyond the scopes of IT organizations to the business users as well. Business users want to get data in real time as well, right? How are you going to get that data, right? And this is a big issue. So, and self-service means that I, as a business user, can get that data when I need it, right? In real time. That's very important. Expansion of sources to include databases, data warehouses, lake houses, social, SaaS, legacy, and others, right? The data virtualization continues the expansion of the number of sources. A decade ago, we were mostly talking about databases, data warehouses. Today, data virtualization does a lot more, right? Structured, unstructured data, but also all these different types of workday data, Salesforce data, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these different types of data sources we need to be connecting as well. If you're going to be doing customer 360, you just don't need a database connection alone. You need to also have a connection to your social data as well, right? How are you going to get there? A growing need for on-premises and multiple clouds like AWS, GCP, and Azure, right? It's not just about one cloud, but a lot of people are doing multi-cloud. In fact, 35% of the organization today are already doing multiple clouds. And we believe this number is going to double in the next 4 years. So definitely huge. Now, how are you going to really ensure the synchronization of data and reliability of the data is a big challenge. Need for built-in security frameworks, right? I think this is huge. Traditionally, we've only have access controls. If you had access control rights, then you would do data virtualization, right? But now it's gone beyond that. We need to actually have business users identifying themselves through credentials and any accessing data which is relevant to them. So there's a lot of things of data masking, authentication, authorization coming in and built into data virtualization. I know one financial services company who's got 25,000 databases. 25,000 databases. How do you connect and give those 25,000 databases access to those business users? Like, they would love to have those connections, right, of those 25,000, but they disallowed those connections. They want everyone to connect through data virtualization. Why? Because it's a central point of authentication of security, right? And this is a very important point. A lot of people use data virtualization not just for accessing data, which is distributed, but also controlling access as well. Very important point. Next slide. So to see the progression of what's going on, CData commissioned Forrester Consulting to understand about the modern architectures, like what's going on right now. Let's do a survey and find out from customers what exactly is going on. So we at Forrester conducted an online survey of 310 global IT and data architecture to find out about what are their challenges, where are they spending time on it, what are things they're doing with architecture wise as well. So let us share the study in these slides. Next slide. Number one we see is that this is a big question we asked. What are the top challenges your company faces with your current data architecture, right? If you have a current data architecture, what is your current challenges, right? The top challenges. Number one, compliance. Everyone is facing compliance challenges across the globe. Even non-financial services companies, right? So big issue right there, and not surprising to have it on the top of the ranks. Number two, high cost. Everyone is facing high cost. People have controlled budget right now. So obviously infrastructure cost is growing. How do you control the infrastructure cost as well, right? Latency, because I mentioned we are doing with hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, on-premises data, edge data. How are you going to minimize latency across all these sources, right? A huge thing as well. There's a growing latency. We can't be moving data around. Imagine moving kilobytes, right? We used to do, we went to gigabytes. We moved to terabytes. Now we're moving petabytes. Can we move petabytes of data No, we can't move petabytes. Can we move terabytes? Well, we can't really move so quickly, right? Unless there's going to be a few terabytes, right? Not like hundreds of terabytes you want to move in a second on the net. It'll be a challenge, I guess, right? But that's very important where data virtualization comes in, because you can move selective data. You don't have to move all the data. A selective data is what data virtualization really excels in. Challenges managing data across multiple clouds, right? People are dealing with multiple clouds. How do you ensure authentication, authorization? How do you ensure performance and scalability across multiple clouds, whether you're running Amazon, Google, or GCP? And I think this is a big issue right there, which I think customers are facing. Duplicate data capabilities in multiple clouds as well, right? Duplicate data, as I mentioned, more than 30% of data is duplicated. And that, I think, leads to inconsistency of data as well. And these are the top challenges. And I think the list goes on and on and on, right? Next slide. Now, what we see is, what are your company's highest data and analytical priorities for the next 12 months, right? By the way, this survey was done in November of 2023, right? A few months ago. So this is a very current data. So we asked them, like, what are the highest data and analytical priorities for them? Number one priority is to improve data quality. Like, give me a break. What's going on with data quality, I guess, right? It's garbage in, garbage out, right? If your data is bad, what are you going to do, right? And this is a huge issue right there. So I think people are spending more time that, hey, we are going to be moving towards real-time insights, but then how can we ensure data quality of that data, right? A huge thing going on right now in the industry. And that number is 62%. Like, give me a break, right? Why is it 62%, that high? I think this number is going to go even higher in the coming months, because I think people struggle with this, because data is inconsistent, and changing it into improving data quality in terms of cleansing data, profiling data, takes a while. Provide a single trusted data repository is, again, one of the priorities for organizations, like single trusted data repository. By the way, data virtualization helps a lot in building data hubs. A data hub based on a domain, customer domain, product domain, supplier domain, and all this good stuff. So people ask me questions all the time, like, hey, Noel, do you just build one data virtualization and you're done with it? The answer is no. You have multiple data virtualization deployments for an enterprise, depending on where data lives, right? It could be living here and there, but also within the cloud, you may have multiple instances of the data virtualization framework to help you with this data repository thing as well. Faster deployments of predictive AI machine learning models, not surprising, it's a priority, I think, for everyone who are trying to move to AI. Managing data across multiple clouds is another big priority in the coming months. Supporting for data in the edge platform as well, critical priority as well. Next slide. Now, I wanted to show this slide just to relate to the fact that real-time data is very important. As the data gets originated, it creates a lot of high business value. As it starts to decline over time, it can be outdated. It could be poor decisions. It can be obviously harmful for actions as well, right? So this is definitely, we have seen the trend. In fact, people who are able to take decisions, quickly with the data, fresh data, are likely to have better customer success, customer intelligence, customer experience, but also better models for business success, in general. So that's something which we have seen happening as well, right? And the definition of real time varies, by the way, right? I wrote a blog about this called Demystifying Real Time Data for Insights and Applications. And what's interesting is that, certain things will be required milliseconds, right? Because like fraud detection, you need to have it in milliseconds. But certain things will be in minutes, right? Because the fact that there's a delay is okay. Normally, if you have a 10-minute window for data analytical scenarios, is good enough within a 10-minute window, is what we're seeing. Right now, the 10-minute window is about 24-hour window for most organizations. And that's a big struggle, by the way. Next slide. All right. So what factors are keeping your company, this is a question we asked, what factors are keeping your company from investing in increasing its investments in data access and integration tools. Number one, security concerns around migrations, right? How do we really migrate this data? How do we make sure that we are dealing with security in a very collective, integrated manner? Complicated installations and integration, definitely. Installations of integration tools and access controls can be spent for days and months. I know customers struggle with this. You want to have a simplified tool solution, right? Too much unstructured data. We're dealing with lots and lots of unstructured data, the videos, the images, all kinds of documents out there floating around, a lot more than structured data as well, right? Lack of budget. I think this is a big issue right now for every organization right there. How do we really deal with, do more with less, right? And this is a big issue. But I think we are going to get through this and actually excel in our architectures and frameworks for sure. Next slide. Now, if you look at it, this is another interesting question we asked the survey folks here. Like, what features, capabilities would you expect from a data access and integration tool? So if at all they were going to buy an integration tool, what capabilities would they expect? Number one, real-time integration. Not surprising, right? 66%. I think the industry is moving towards real time over the last 3-4 years since the pandemic. We had a lot of inquiries from customers across all of the different industries talking about real time. A big issue right there, and I think people are still getting up to speed on this because traditional architectures haven't kept up. So what are you going to do, right? And I mentioned data virtualization is a shortcut to this architecture for real time, because the fact that you can get to the data, whatever data you want, with data virtualization, structured, unstructured, but also anywhere, right? It could be cloud, on cloud, multiple clouds, hybrid cloud, edges, you name it. Ability to move quickly to generate insights. Ability quickly to move, generate insights. I think this is another important factor, right? It ties towards the real-time as well. Time to value matters, right? The data, if it's just fresh, has got a lot of more potential. We talked about it, right? Easy integration with existing legacy tools and existing tools. No one wants to run a data virtualization in isolation. It needs to be integrated with your legacy systems. It needs to be integrated with your all of those ecosystem tooling you already have, which is very, very important, right? That's what we're seeing a success with data virtualization. Ability to create custom connectors as well. This comes back, I think, like 7-8% of the companies asking about custom connectors, but I think this number has been growing because sometimes they have data which no one's tracking, some machine data, some financial data, some of those things which are difficult to tap into. Integration with data lakes, fabrics are going to be important as well. Absolutely. This is something which we see more and more customers asking about as well. So all of these are critical. I think these are capabilities which people expect as a result of these new access and integration tools. Next slide. Now, if you look at it from the perspective of another question, like, what are the top benefits your company has seen, would expect to see as a result of prioritizing, implementing data access and all, right? So what are the benefits you would expect to see as a result of this? Well, number one, improved data security. This is one of the biggest issue I think people are running into, because we got data all over the place, and we got compliance pressure across facing most of the clients right now, most of the industries right now, and they don't even have control right there, right? Only about 28% of data today in an organization is used for analytics. Only 28% on an average. What happened to the remainder? They locked up, right? And why are they locked up? Because they got security issue right there. People are concerned about security, of access controls about that data. Hey, we may be giving away too much data because it's protective, sensitive data. And I think this is a very important point. you need to actually have improved security around this, right? Data virtualization helps you. I'll give you an example. I gave you, in fact, an example earlier on, that 25,000 databases which someone is doing in financial services. They wanted to disallow those users to directly access those databases, and hence they went to a data virtualization layer to provide you that context, right? Increase scalability, increase visibility of data, increase collaboration across the teams. I mean, these are the benefits you'll see. I think the list goes on and on. I think data virtualization has become critical in all these dimensions. If you want to access data from multiple clouds, how are you going to do it, right? Write C programs, Python programs, like that'll take you days probably trying to figure this out, right? And that, I think, is a big issue right there for customers. Like, they can't really do this agile integration with programming or development. You really need to have solutions that are highly automated and self-service driven. Next slide. So this is another interesting question we asked. Like, please indicate your level of agreement with the following statements. Number one, my organization sees modernized, optimized data architecture as a foundation of an effective IT strategy. Guess what? 95% of the people are agreeing with this. 64% strongly agree that a modernized, optimized data architecture is going to be critical for them, right? Number one, I think everyone agrees with that. Number two, data virtualization tools optimized for the cloud could help our organizations make the most of our existing data infrastructure. That's 94%. 54% strongly agree with that. So data virtualization definitely, as I mentioned, is a very important tooling to help with the data infrastructure and the platform right there. Then we've got ETL and data virtualization solutions should work in concert to efficiently integrate data from multiple sources, right? I think Will and Amit talked about this, I guess, right, where you got live data and replicated data, right, together. This is a very important point as well. We do see that level of having that collaboration of these two different architectures and frameworks together, especially to drive these new generation of use cases. Again, 93% of those people called it out. And then last, data virtualization for the cloud is important to the success of our company, right? 92% claim it is. In fact, 52% claim is 52% strongly agree with that, I guess, right? Absolutely, absolutely. So, and as mentioned, there's a growing trend around this. Next slide. All right, so so this is another one of the last of I guess of the survey question. Like, okay, what was your company's plans when it comes to the following types of infrastructure? Data virtualization as a form of integration. 68% are expanding or upgrading implementation. They already are doing 68% already are doing this. With 13% implemented or expand, but not expanding, and 70% planning to implement it next 12 months. Data mesh and data fabric is also there listed. Data fabric obviously has been growing as well, and data meshes as well, right? These architectures have been growing quite extensively as well. So definitely data virtualization has been a very important architecture which customers are adopting. Next slide. So to wrap up, what are the recommendations I have for you guys? And we can spend the whole day on this topic, I guess, to talk about it. But I would say leverage data virtualization for your data and analytical strategy, right? If you don't already have it, the good thing with this, you don't need a lot of budget. Number one. Number two is you can get started in days. In fact, hours. Like one customer mentioned, we set up the data virtualization in a couple of hours, actually. Wow. You don't have to spend this 6 months trying to figure this out. You can start it like next week and be up and running, right? And that's a huge benefit. And it's a building block exercise, which means you start to build with one source, the second source, the third source. I know one of the large companies who did this, and they found very good success. And over the last over the 12 months period, they had more than 100 sources available to them, right? For integration as well. So you gradually, it's a building block. You start with a couple of sources, and then you add more sources. Number one. Number two is that don't have to move all data into data virtualization. No. And data virtualization is not a lake. It's not a warehouse. Remember that, right? It's dealing with selective data. That's a very, very important point. Look for robust, scalable, highly automated replication solution, right? If you're looking for a solution, look for those robust. There has to be a reliable, scalable, automated. Automated means that all the connectors are built in. You only have to drag and drop, basically, and you define those sources and those connections in a very simplified manner. Ensure the data is secure end to end. I think this is very important because, especially when you're dealing with sensitive data, you need to make sure you got SSH and secure tunnels and all of those things going on. They have to be built in, right? You want to make sure that someone actually hacks in your data while moving data around. Security is very, very important, and we saw that in the slides as well. Right? Look for data virtualization solutions that can integrate your on-premises and cloud. Not just the cloud alone, or not just the on-premises alone, but also on-premises and cloud and multi-cloud as well, right? Ensure data virtualization can connect to a broader set of sources, right? Very, very important. The number of sources have been growing extensively. What's different last 15, 17 years in data virtualization? The number of sources have grown significantly, right? Especially with the cloud sources now. Look for replication solutions that deliver low latency movement. Absolutely. This is, I think, very important, fundamental for organizations to support. Have a team. Very, very important. Team. Don't start a project on data virtualization with like one person. I'm the DBA, I'm the developer. Let's do a project. No, this is not going to work very well. It's not going to succeed. Have a team, and a team actually comprises of different personas, like architects and developers and security, business analysts working together to succeed with data virtualization. And as I mentioned, you may have multiple instances of data virtualization running, not just one running. Leverage data virtualization replication across multiple use cases. As I mentioned, you start with one use case, but you'll realize that the same data virtualization can be used for other use cases as well. So that's the benefit with the data virtualization and replication, that it can do multiple use cases. We're doing customer intelligence, customer 360, IoT, analytics, fraud detection, and what have you, right? A huge benefit out there. Next slide. Oh, that's so. Thank you very much for this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Noel. We are right at time at 1 after an hour 30. So one call out I wanted to have here is the research study that we conducted with Noel is publishing tomorrow. So the title is Unlocking the Power of Bimodal Data Integration, Enhancing Companies' Efficiency with Data Virtualization and Replication. You can see the entirety of the research that we did and the results of the survey that we did with Noel. We'll be making that available to everyone who joined us today. You'll get that as part of the follow-up to the event, and that's publishing live tomorrow. So you get a sneak preview of that research that Noel went through in his slides. And so given we're already over at time, I'm going to skip the Q&A. We've gotten a ton of questions that have been answered by our team through the chat window. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll make sure that those get routed to the right people, whether on our team or through our customers and partners and Noel, who presented it from an analyst perspective. But I really wanted to say thank you for everyone who joined us today. We had a tremendous and engaging audience through the chat and Q&A, and also big thanks to our customers, partners, and Noel for joining us. A big thank you to Nathan Thompson for joining from Scorpion, and Bruce from Google Looker. This was tremendous for us to get this group together and present on this topic, and really appreciate everyone who presented and everyone who joined us live today. Thank you, and we will see you soon. All right, bye.